Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Bible in 1 Year with the Preacher's Husband. Today we're talking about 1 Kings chapter 3 and 4. We're also going to start 2 Chronicles chapter 1, and also we're going to dabble a little bit with Psalm 72. So tomorrow we're going to go back into the longest chapter in the Bible, which is Psalm 119. And we're going to do verses 89 through 176. So that's the last 11 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, as it were. So let's get right into it. Chapter 3 from 1 Kings starts out with the Lord appears to Solomon. Now, this all happened, according to this, in Solomon's dream. He appeared to Solomon in a dream at night. And God asked Solomon, "What should I give you?" So Solomon replied with this big, drawn out thing about how you've done this and you've done that, Lord, and you've done all these things. So just give your servant a receptive heart to judge your people and to discern between good and evil. For who is able to judge this great people of yours? Now it pleased the Lord that Solomon had requested this. So God said to him, "Because you have requested this and did not ask for long life or riches for yourself or the death of your enemies, but instead you asked for discernment for yourself to administer justice," which is the job that God has given him, he says, "I'm going to give you what you asked for." But then he goes on a little bit further and he says, "In addition, I will give you what you did not ask for, the riches and the honor, so that no king will be your equal during your entire reign." And nobody was going to be like him. I found that just absolutely fascinating. And that brings us to Solomon's wisdom. So Solomon wakes up and realizes that, man, I guess this was all just a big dream, but two women were brought to him. They were prostitutes, and these two women had a problem. The problem was, they both had a baby within just a few months of each other, and they were both living in the same house. Well, one of the ladies rolled over on her baby in the middle of the night and killed it. So when she woke up and realized what happened, she took her dead baby, went swished it with the other girl's baby that was alive, and put that baby in. When the other girl woke up and found out the baby was dead, she's like, "Oh no, my baby's dead." But then she realized, wait, this ain't my baby, this is her baby. She took my baby. So she denies it, so they go get taken in front of Solomon. So they tell her story, and Solomon says, "Well, here's what we're going to do. You over there grab that baby up, and you just chop it in half. Give half to one woman and half to the other." And they're like, "No, no, 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 no." One woman said, "No, no, 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 no. Please don't kill the baby. Just let her have the baby, because I'd rather that baby be with her than for the baby to die." Another lady's like, "No, neither one of us is going to have this baby. Just chop it in half." So Solomon knew right away who the mama was because of the wisdom that God gave him. And he said, "Give it to the first lady, because it's clear that that's her baby, because she would never want that baby to die, even if it meant, doing without her." So Solomon did get the wisdom. It wasn't just a dream, it was real, and God really gave him this wisdom. Chapter 4 talks about Solomon's officials, and then we get into Solomon's provisions. And he had a lot of provisions, let me tell you. He had tons and tons of stuff. Now, verse 34 here, Solomon's wisdom and literary gifts. Something stuck out to me there. What stuck out to me were there was emissaries of all people, sent by every king on earth who had heard of his wisdom, came to listen to Solomon's wisdom. People from everywhere. Other kings sent representatives just to hear Solomon. He was so wise. I found that very fascinating. Are there any leaders today where other leaders from all over the world come just to hear their wisdom because they're just so wise? I don't know of any. Anyway, we'll move on to 2 Chronicles, all right? So 2 Chronicles, just to introduce, we're only going to do chapter 1 of 2 Chronicles tonight, but 2 Chronicles, there's not really an author of this book of the Bible, but Jewish tradition suggests that Ezra was the author. It dates to around 450 BC, after the return of the Jewish exiles from Babylon. And just like 1st and 2nd Samuel and 1st and 2nd Kings, 1st and 2nd Chronicles originally was one book that was divided into two books in the 2nd century BC. Now, just a quick overview or summary of Second Chronicles is after Solomon's glorious reign, which culminated in the dedication of the temple, kings of the Davidic dynasty, some righteous and some evil, continued ruling in Jerusalem until the destruction of the temple and the exile of the people of Babylon. So that's what we're going to be reading about over the next few weeks. Second Chronicles covers about 4.5 centuries. That's over almost 450 years. I think it's 442 years to be exact. From the start of Solomon's reign in about 971 BC to Cyrus's edict that freed the Jews from captivity in 539 BC. So as we jump into 2 Chronicles chapter 1, this is basically a rehashing of what we just read in 1 Kings 3 and 4. And of course, verse 10 stuck out to me here. It says, "Now grant me wisdom and knowledge so that I may lead these people, for who can judge this great people of yours?" See, that stuck out to me, that he really wanted wisdom. And you know what else? It must have stuck out really well to William McKinley as well, because William McKinley placed his hand on 2 Chronicles chapter 1 verse 10 as he took the presidential oath of office in 1897. And essentially what we read in 1 Kings chapter 3 said the same thing in verses 9 through 11. And you know what? It was not overlooked by another president, because William Howard Taft placed his hand on 1 Kings chapter 3 verses 9 through 11 as he took the presidential oath of office in 1909. So that was a very famous story that even presidents have taken to heart in the United States here. So this is very meaningful. And then it goes on to talk about Solomon's horses and his wealth and his riches. Now, do you remember when we read in Deuteronomy, I believe it was chapter 17, verses 16 and 17, it said, the law states that the future king should not acquire horses from Egypt or accumulate large amounts of silver. Remember when we talked about that? Well, here Solomon is talking about Solomon's wealth and all of his horses, and some that he specifically got from Egypt. So is he really breaking God's law here? I say no. A lot of scholars say, yeah, he was breaking God's law because he was gaining all these horses. But at the end of Solomon's dream, didn't God say, I will also give you riches, wealth, and glory, unlike what was given to the kings who were before you, or will be given to those after you? Yeah, he did. Matter of fact, it's right here in verse 12 of 1 Chronicles chapter 1. So, in my opinion, he's not breaking God's law because God gave it to him. God said he was going to give it to him and did. So how is he breaking God's law if God gives it to you? Even though God said you shouldn't seek it. Because Solomon did not seek these things. God just gave them to him. The sinful part is knowingly acting against God's law. And Solomon did not knowingly act against God's law here. So I'm going to move on. That's my little spiel for tonight. Psalm 72. That's right, Psalm 72. And this is a prayer for the king in the CSB. The title in the King James says, Glory and Universality of the Messiah's Reign. Talk about a word. And this is a prayer for the king of Solomon. Now, of Solomon, like we saw all of these psalms that said of David, will probably function similarly. It could mean authored by Solomon, or it could mean written for Solomon, or it could even mean in the style of Solomon. And the story was great here, but the verse that stuck out to me the most was, of course, 19 and 20 together. Blessed be his glorious name forever. The whole earth is filled with his glory. Amen and amen. The prayers of David, son of Jesse, are concluded. And that is the last verse in the second book of Psalms. And the next, of course, Psalm 73 would start the third book of Psalms. I hope this has touched you. If it has, click the like button and the subscribe button. Of course, click the little jingle bell so you get notified the next time I upload a video, which will be tomorrow. And we'll see you then.